right, we are live here on Soulfire. My name is Chrystopher, the AstroMedium, and thank you for joining me for the Chronicles of Chiron, the Lion, the Witch, and the Healer. I'm usually joined by my partner, Jessica Tanselle, Psychic Medium and Healer. She is not able to be with us tonight, so tonight I'm going to take over, and we're going to talk about one of the subjects that makes me very passionate, and I'm very passionate to share that and excited to share that with you tonight, is the world of plant-based foods. So for those of you who are just tuning in, who do not know what Chiron is and are not familiar with that in astrology, Chiron is the wounded healer. It is an archetype, and it's also an asteroid that sits between the orbit of a Saturn and Uranus. And Chiron is the archetypal wounded healer. So he represents the process of transmuting pain into power. This asteroid is responsible for bringing on an infliction, if you will, kind of a core wound that you're born with, that you come in with, that your soul chooses in order to heal and evolve into a higher state of consciousness, because Saturn, in between Saturn and Uranus, is that bridge between the physical and non-physical dimensions of consciousness. So this is a multi-dimensional thing we're talking about here. There's a lot of healing that we talk about on this show. Jessica and I usually share a topic, and we go back and forth about the different scientific things that help heal in scientific ways, psychological ways, spiritual ways. And of course, I am a psychic medium, empath, very traditionally spiritual. So I'm going to always lean in that direction, but I do want to give some scientific validation for things as well. So tonight we're going to be talking about veganism and plant-based foods. Of course, plant-based is a much softer term to use. Whenever people hear vegan, they run for the hills, and not so much anymore. You're more used to that now. And I have been vegan for 7 years, and I am not one of those vegans that, or person who prescribes to a plant-based diet. I am not someone who shames other people. I don't look down on other people for still continuing to eat a standard American diet or to include animal-based foods. I have gone through many transitions and phases as my vegan self, and gone through a lot of, during my spiritual awakening and my ascension process, as the ego was dissolving and the attachments to certain physical things and certain ideas of myself were dying due to the process of these chakras opening and kundalini burning through blockages and densities. I was forced open and forced to view myself in a lot of different ways, and a lot of things came up for me that made me realize that I cannot be judgmental. So I'm really going to come at you from a very non-judgmental place. And I'm just going to share with you how it's worked for me, why I'm passionate about it. And if it resonates with you, I will start here by saying that as a vegan, I do not believe that everyone should be vegan. And you can argue with me all you want to, but from a spiritual or energetic perspective, I'm not saying I believe animals are made to be eaten. I'm saying that not everyone's body, not everyone's consciousness, not everyone's system is equipped, not the right word, vibrationally up to speed with plant-based diets. So there's a lot of things that we are expressions of, and a lot of people do hold more density in their physical being and in their energetic body. So someone like me, sun in the 12th house, I have a lot of Gemini energy, Cancer rising, the body's very sensitive. I am a light worker, a starseed, all that good shit, I got accredited, But this idea of someone being more sensitive and someone being more dense or someone being more high frequency, these things are real, so people operate at slightly different frequencies and within different ranges, even males to females. Your structure is, females have a higher vibration. There's a little bit higher cycle per second going on. So there's a difference in form. And so everyone is different, and I do want to acknowledge that. However, I do want to highlight the powers of healing powers of plant-based foods. And some of it may seem obvious, but for some, it might be eye-opening. And there are many documentaries I can recommend for you to watch. You know, as a spiritual person, I do it for ethical reasons, if anyone is wondering. But right after I went vegan, I definitely started getting the health benefits of it and knowing all of the health benefits, and became a health coach. And I lived in Chicago and was helping people with getting into that lifestyle, and I was very passionate about it. And so there's a lot that I know on the scientific end. However, I will also say that there is a lot of people who do thrive on animal foods more, or I have seen that. And that could be that their system has not upgraded. And I'm not saying that we're better vegans, but they could actually need that at that time to support all of the unprocessed emotions they're constantly holding in them. I mean, there's a lot of factors that I now factor in that makes it, this is not a black or white issue. You know, I don't want to kill an animal myself, and so I feel I shouldn't procure products that and utilize and use products that add to that torture and that mass suffering. But I also can't be judgmental because I used to eat it, and there's a lot of people who do thrive on it, or really have good intentions. Everyone really does have good intentions, most people. So it's the industry that is the issue. And so there's an unhealthy energetic component to eating animal foods as well, is the amount of fear that's in it, the amount of just the intention in creating the animal for food also comes with its own energy. You know, just like when you intend something and it has an outcome, when you intend something out of greed or out of capitalism, or if it's just not love or wanting to expand, that vibration will be carried through in that. And that could be said for a lot of the other foods that are out there, you know, and the way they're made. And I understand that, but it's all about what resonates with you. So there are a few reasons why people would go vegan or adopt a plant-based lifestyle. And the first one I want to talk about is climate. I want to talk about these real quick because, again, I want to get to the healing powers of it, but it is healing to the planet. Okay, so we are the planet. We're made of it. We are energetically connected to it. Our alpha brainwave frequency vibrates at the frequency of the earth. So we are connected in so many ways to Mother Earth, and we should love her, and she is an expression of us and all of that stuff. So when you get to this point, you start to consider those things, and you want those things because you realize that's you too. And if you watch the documentary Cowspiracy, that will really nail down a lot of the facts and a lot of the reasonings why a lot of people are advocating for a plant-based lifestyle for climate control. Climate, would that be right? Climate change reasons, okay? So another factor, of course, is ethical. So I don't believe that that if you're spiritual, you can't eat meat and all that stuff. Like, eventually you're going to have to let the meat go if you're going to ascend, and we're all ascending. And although there is something to that, I don't necessarily believe that. And I don't think the universe is made up to be completely black and white ever, if you really get down to the microcosm. So I think from an ethical perspective, I don't, although I used to really judge people, I couldn't help it at first. It was what I had to go through at first. It was part of my process. It was like, how can you not realize that animal is the same as a human, and that if I was eating a human for my dinner, you'd be so upset. It would be like traumatizing. But yet it's just about what's normal to us. And I realized, like, things have been made normal for me. I didn't have a choice. I didn't choose whether I wanted to eat meat or not, or cheese or not. I was given it. And although I loved it, it was like I still wasn't given an option to not eat those things. So it was just given to me. And so it became just normal. But I'm like, I watched a documentary called Earthlings. And I don't recommend it for everyone, but if you're looking for something to just tip you over the edge, that will do it. And as an empath, I didn't realize I was an empath at the time. This was 7 years ago. But I mean, I looking back, I definitely was an empath, but I just didn't know those things, or I didn't believe that I was. So when I watched something like that, the way that it hurt me was so visceral that it just overnight I just did it. And yes, I was crying, all that kind of stuff. So if you're not ready for that, you're not ready for that. But I watched the whole thing and I made myself, and I said, this is what's happening, this is what's going on in the world, and this is how all these clothes and all this food and all of this sea world and all this entertainment, that's how all of this gets into a product that we buy. Oh, and you're just like, I can't do this. And other people have watched those things and they're not bothered by it, and I can't judge them anymore. But I also don't judge murderers either. There's a certain level of, they were where they were and they had the certain consciousness framework that they were in. But then it leads me also to the health benefits. And I'm not going to go on too long about this. I just want to bring it to your attention that the human body most matches, primate beings, and they are frugivores, which are omnivores. Omnivore does not mean that you have to have meat and vegetation. It means that you can thrive on either or. But a frugivore would thrive most on plant foods, and because it's a frugivore, on fruits. We're beings that eat fruit off trees. That's why we have hands like this. So we aren't just supposed to eat vegetation. We can actually eat fruit off of things and get up there and get to it. And the whole idea that we are carnivores or because we came from cavemen, all that's not even what you think it is, okay? Believe me when I tell you, you are a hybrid species. You are made up of Homo sapien DNA, but you're also made up of others, okay? Like I mean, you've got all kinds of stuff in you, and I'm not going to go too much into that. I'm just saying there's a lot going on here, and as you evolve as a consciousness, your system will change. So a lot of the ascension symptoms that are going on right now are gut issues, issues in the stomach area. Digestion has been thrown off. Digestion is slower. It's more sluggish. There's a lot of acid reflux happening right now, and this isn't just because you're eating things that you normally eat and it's causing issues. And you're just like, your body's trying to tell you something. And it's because our frequency is changing very fast, so fast that the body is having a hard time keeping up with that. But the body must adjust and must change to the shift in frequency, because it is a representation of the overall frequency. So there's so much that's happening in the body, heart stuff, throat activations. The body's going through a lot, and so it's time we have to nourish the body. And yes, there are vitamins in animal food, okay? There are people who've lived to 100 years old, healthy, eating animal foods their whole life. I understand that. So everybody's different, but you will find what works for you. And I've always been better with plant foods, even though I loved cheese and bread, just loved it. There's addictive properties to cheese. So now I understand, like, I wasn't just liking it. There was something keeping me liking it. So I understand all that now. And so the body really wants fiber, because our colon, our intestines is so long. It's like a frugivore. It needs things that break down and move through, and fiber is what you need. And lots of chlorophyll and green and all that stuff we do thrive on. Our body loves that. It keeps the blood clean, keeps the blood pumping and thinner. There's no cholesterol in plant-based foods. So there's a lot of health risks that I know that I really don't ever have to worry about. And I'm not being cocky. I'm just like, you just realize that you're never gonna get those things. Again, Oreos are vegan, so I could eat deep fried Oreos all day long if I wanted to. And I might have to do that at some point, but I don't do that all the time. I eat rice and beans. I eat, I might have an Impossible Burger on gluten-free bread. I mean, I eat pretty healthy. When I'm being bad, it's like almond milk ice cream, so that's me being bad. So I definitely am fortunate where I can live in a time in 2021 where all of these beautiful and well thought out and excellently created now in this year, not necessarily 7 years ago, but now, just these vegan foods, these plant-based foods that are so delicious. There's hot dogs and bacon, and a lot of people are like, that's, it is not exactly the same, and some things are very close to being exactly the same, too much where I don't even like it. So you just got to try it. But in this time, you can do this without feeling like you are missing out on something. Now, I will tell you, as you are ascending as a spiritual being and your system is changing, your system's also not going to like all that processed vegan food either. The cheeses and the meats and the fake eggs and stuff like that. It's not made out of chemicals, but they are made in, they don't come in their natural whole state. There's a lot of mixing things, creating things in lab, mung bean protein isolate, in something. It's like, you mix all that together, it's not necessarily vibrating at a very high speed like a completely raw or cooked whole food plant-based diet. Vegetables, fruits in their natural state, well seasoned. I eat like that quite a bit. Beans, add some beans in there, you can make it really good. But there are times where I do eat the vegan junk food as well, and I can feel a difference. So you really have to gauge what's right for you and try things. But the idea, because there's a lot of I don't want to say it's not correct, because I do agree with it, but there's a lot of spiritual people out there on the internet and on Instagram and TikTok who will talk about, you need to remove animal foods because as we're ascending, we're not going to have to do that anymore. And we're not going to need to kill things anymore, our system. And I believe that is where it's eventually going to go. It makes sense to me. It's just a higher vibrating. There's a lot of components to that. It's like you don't have to take something else's life, although there was nothing necessarily wrong with that before when you needed it and you operated within that frequency range. But there's also the density of the food. Animal products are much more dense, especially the meats and things like that. It's, a lot of times, becoming a psychic medium, I've worked with mostly psychic mediums who are not vegan. Okay. So I knew going in that me being vegan didn't necessarily give me an edge. These psychics and mediums I was working with, they were the real deal and really bringing in some information. And of course I thought, I guess because I would have thought, the more healthy you are, because a lot of psychic mediums are not healthy. They're empaths and they overeat and they eat bad shit because they need to escape. There's a lot of information that we're always processing. So I understand that. But going in, I thought maybe me holding a higher vibration, especially because I take in higher vibrating foods more often, maybe that would connect me more purely. I don't know. I don't necessarily agree with that either or have found that to be true, but I do feel that it is right for me. And I never feel like I'm missing out on anything. And when I went through Kundalini awakening, and of course that was 4 years after I went vegan, I definitely freaked out and had my blood work done. And they said, well, you're kind of low in vitamin D, but it's higher than the average person. And you're kind of low in B12, but it's higher than the average person. And they said, do you take a D or a B12 supplement? I said, no. And they said, well, you really don't have to, but if you wanted to, you'd actually be in like our safe zone. It's kind of the way they put it. So I started taking a vitamin B12 and with methylfolate, and then a vitamin D3 with K2, of course, both of them vegan sources. And I definitely just I don't know if I feel a difference, but I do it and I feel like it's necessary to do that. And I think everyone should be doing that. So like something crazy like 50% of the population is B12 deficient and 6% of them are vegan. So I don't think the B12 thing is a vegan issue or a plant-based issue. You can get all the proper nutrients and proteins that you need, and your body might be needing something higher vibrating. And what I mean by that is these foods they vibrate at a higher frequency. They still hold that sunlight energy in them, that chlorophyll, all that was made from them is still in there. And they also don't They have a lot of fiber and a lot of water in them, and their molecular structure and their atomic matter vibrates at a higher frequency. And so when you take that in, your system won't have to work so hard to digest it and move it through, which means that all of the energy that is used for digestion, a lot of it can remain in other areas like the third eye. So you can still continue to process information at a fast speed with your intuitive senses. And so I do believe in that way, in the way I just described it, it definitely could help me become more clear or pure in the message, even though if I ate something more dense, because these psychic mediums would tell me, you need to go ground yourself. Because I would do all these readings, or I'd be doing something and my head, I will often get lightheaded or dizzy. And they're like, you need to ground. So go eat some meat, go eat something. And I'm like, I don't eat that. And they're like, you need to ground your energy. And I realized, well, of course, all these psychic mediums were always taught to use like meat and things like that when they needed to ground themselves. And when they would say that, I'm like, man, y'all just are looking for an excuse to go have a steak. Like all this witchy stuff, because when I first became a psychic medium, I was not into all the things that you had to do. Oh, you need to clear your energy first. I was like, why? You need to tell me why. So I had to have my own experience for all of these things. And I eventually realized, well, they're putting meat in there. It does ground them. It does bring them back down to earth, because the energy goes from here. The energy goes from here down into the stomach, and all of it works there. It makes them more tired. It also makes them feel more firmly in their body. And I'm often not in my body. I'm always in my mental body, or right outside, or having to come back. Not necessarily dissociating, but when I get in thoughts, or I can feel my energy moving out here and being very aware of what's going on in my environment at all times. So that would benefit me, but I had to learn that I could ground my energy in so many different ways. And there are plant foods like root vegetables and certain things that are very fibrous or more dense, and I guess you could say they're more dense, but they also were in the earth, so there's a grounding factor there. They weren't up here out in the sunlight. So there are things that can ground your energy, and it doesn't have to be super dense to the point that it brings your energy totally down. So it just depends on, again, how you feel after you eat these things. If you feel fine eating animal foods and you don't notice a difference and you are happy with it, don't change it, and don't take anything I'm saying any type of way. You are obviously doing something right, or you would notice something. Your body would be sending you signals: pain, depression, all types of different internal and external health issues, skin stuff. Your body knows how to purge and detoxify, and it will do that. And if you're noticing a lot of symptoms at this time, a lot of it could be, if you notice a lot of health issues anyway, it could be from the animal foods, and it's just a good idea to explore other options. And then if you're experiencing a lot of ascension symptoms, you're very likely that the food that you're intaking and the lack of water is not allowing the energies that are coming in and trying to move things out to move through very purely and smoothly. So there are a lot of factors to take in when it comes to considering a vegan or plant-based diet, and is very healing in the fact that you're no longer taking in pain, torture, but also chemicals, hormones. There's a lot that you take in when you consume certain animal products. And so your energy will acclimate to that. So if you're sensitive to energy, that might be why when you eat certain things, you feel certain things that you are uncomfortable with. I've had those experiences myself. So, I remember eating chicken every single day before I went vegan, when I lived in Chicago for like 3 months, and it was one of the most unhappy times in my life. I cried about it one day. All I eat is chicken. And my roommate was like, well, then stop. And I'm like, but I have to do it to gain muscle. And like, I look kind of exactly the same as I did back then, but my body's actually more like, I don't do all that exercise. Okay. And like, my body looks fucking fine on this vegan diet, and I actually look pretty much the same as I did before. There's really not, it just looks like it did before. I didn't really notice that much of a change in my body, except that it looks a little bit more defined in certain places. And I don't have the digestive issues that I used to have. I mean, I'll get stuff, ascension symptoms, and I'll know that something needs to be adjusted. Or during that time, maybe in that time, you're downloading a lot of frequencies, your chakras are opening, there's things moving out. So maybe just eating, you know, for me, instead of eating a vegan bacon cheeseburger, which I love shit like that, I could eat not just a salad, but no bread, lots of fibers, so like mixed vegetables or some type of like tempeh with vegetables and like a soy sauce or whatever it is, you know, that's a little bit more whole food instead of all that processed stuff, which is harder to digest. Even though it does come from plant-based sources, it's still harder to digest than just eating fruits and vegetables, period. So we have to factor that in as well. All right, everybody, thank you for listening to me. I love this topic. I don't want to rant on and on and on. I just want to give you little tidbits here and there about what it could be, about this vegan lifestyle that everyone's fallen into these days. So I highly recommend, if you're resonating with this at all, you can reach out to me. You can go to my website, www.chrystopher with a Y, Chrystopher medium.com. You can also follow me on Instagram and TikTok at the@astromedium, so ASTRO medium. You can reach me in either of those places. I am a psychic medium and an intuitive astrologer. So if you've never had your astrology chart done, or you don't know what your Chiron sign or house placement is, and you want to understand more about your core wound and how to heal that, book a reading with me. And also, for those of you who are interested in readings, I am a medical intuitive, and that wasn't something I ever thought would come about from all of this, but I can tune to the body and kind of understand where pain is, or what the source of it is, and inflammation in the body, and where we might be having health issues or diet stuff, a lot of, you know, blood pressure, cholesterol. They talk about a lot of that kind of stuff in readings as well. And they show me those types of things. And so I don't always get the message that the person should become vegan, but when that does come through, they do let me know to tell them plant-based foods would be what is necessary right now. And I tell them, they're not saying go vegan, they're saying try the vegan thing right now, because it might be what you need, and it might make you feel so good that you stick with it. So that stuff does come up. And also, I teach astrology classes every Wednesday night at Eclipse over Roswell here in Atlanta, Georgia. And you can go to these classes in person, but we also do it over Zoom. So if you are not in the Atlanta area, you can go to Visit Eclipse, all one word, visiteclipse.as.me/astro to pre-register. It's $10, and we cover different topics every week. And some weeks we might cover the planet, some weeks we might cover the houses, some week we might cover Chiron through the signs and through the houses, that sort of thing. So all right, everybody, thank you for joining me for the Chronicles of Chiron, the Lion, the Witch, and the Healer. I'm sorry Jessica couldn't be here tonight. She sends her love. And if you want to book a reading with Jessica, you can go to thejessicatanselle.com. And if you are not already following Jessica on social media, you can follow her on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at thejessicatanselle, or just at thejessicatanselle. So, all right, everybody, have a wonderful night, and you know where to find me.